Good evening, Michigan. It is fantastic to finally be back with all you guys. It feels like it's been forever. It's been a while. It's been a while. YouTube likes to go back and apparently likes to go back and pull down my videos and give me miscellaneous strikes for them for interviewing people like Patrick Colbeck and Melissa Crone. But you can find those on the new Rumble channel that we have. You can find those over there anytime that YouTube takes something down now. We're going to be posting it over there. And it just feels great to be able to actually talk to you guys again. I hope everybody's been able to keep up with all the posts that I've been trying to give you guys, all the information that I've been trying to give to all of you so we can fight everything that's coming now in our current day. And we have a very special guest with us tonight for our first episode back. Dane is our special guest tonight. He is a trucker, so we know that a lot of the people he knows is out there on the front just as much as he is. We think about them every day, and Dane's out here getting us the supplies that we need. And there's been talks about the DC one, and we'll figure out how he feels about that and see what involvement uh, he may be up to playing in that one. But we're going to give him the floor as we usually do and let him tell you about some of the things that he's involved with, some of the things that he does, the fight that he has. And this is what we like to see. It's like I was telling Dane before we came on tonight. It's nice to hear everybody's stories because no matter how minuscule you think it might be, it takes one person to change the world. And we're going to hear Dane's story of how he plans to help in that change.
Hey, it's great to be with you, Ethan. I am a truck driver, been doing this for almost 22 years. Um, Spent a lot of time on the road, seen a lot of the country. Spent a lot of time in Canada the last, 6, 7 years or so. Sometimes in Canada more than I'm here in the States. I'm a patriot, God, family, country. Um, I've also run the Defy Tyrants of Michigan Facebook group. I set that up almost 2 years ago when I'd seen the tyranny in our faces every single day, and I needed a platform to get people's attention to what's going on, teach them the Constitution, talk about the Declaration of Independence and how it applies to what our government, both at the federal and the local level, is doing, as in the state level for that matter, and how the people can fight back this tyranny. And we're seeing it prevalent in Canada what their tyrannical government is doing to those people, and they're fighting back. So, other than that, I'm just a regular driver. Been pounding the pavement for a long time, and um, it's a hard life. It's a lonely life, and you get used to it. And when with the height of the pandemic, when we didn't know what was going on, we were out on the front lines. I wasn't as much because I delivered to car plants, and a lot of the car plants were shut down. When I was out there, it was like a ghost town. There was no traffic out there. It was just us. And there was nowhere to eat, and a lot of places nowhere to take a shower, use the restroom, that type of thing. But what I'd seen at that point is the country coming together and supporting us drivers in what we're doing. And the ironic part of it is we were, even though we're on the front lines, we're as far away from the pandemic as possible because we spend most of our lives alone in the truck. So other than that, just I'm I'm concerned with what's going on in our country. I see what's going on in Canada, and I know what's going to come here. And we do have the trucker convoys going to Washington, D.C. And Ethan, you did allude that you wanted to know my opinion on is. My opinion on that is um, the fact that I don't know going to D.C. I think it'll be somewhat helpful, but I think the most effective would be just for us to park our truck and not go anywhere, because that would send a louder message. What I'm afraid of is the Biden regime is going to do the same thing that the Trudeau regime is doing in Canada and start getting violent with the drivers, even though they've been peacefully protesting for, well, over 2 weeks now. So that's a little bit about me. As far as what I've got going, I've got that going on. We also did the Christina, Rachel, and I put together an event. It turned into the Defy Tyrants Michigan tour with Pastor Matthew Torella from Milwaukee. He wrote the book Defy Tyrants, the Doctrine of the Lesser Magistrate, and it was very successful. A lot of people came out. They learned something about the Constitution and what the role of the county sheriffs play in protecting not only our civil liberties, but interposing on behalf of people, so federal and state agents can't come in and arrest us or shut businesses down and the like. So people really got a lot out of that, and I think the word is spreading. And what I'm seeing throughout all the places that I go, which I really only run regional anymore, people in general know that there's something wrong. A lot of them don't know what is wrong and where to go to fix it. That's where we come in. Patriots come in and to show them what's wrong and try to talk to them and shed some light on what's really going on, and the fact that our civil liberties are being evacuated every single day. And I know, Ethan, you and I have talked about it. It's been really prevalent since 9/11, since the institution of the Patriot Act, all the way on to Obamacare with taking over the insurance, schools, you name it. So I'm a patriot in the fight, and I will fight in the name of my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. I'll fight to my death if I have to.
And see, a couple things I wanted to touch on in that. One being that just like our doctors and nurses, you truck drivers were some of the most praised out on the front lines when all this started, and now you're becoming one of the most persecuted. And another point that I wanted to touch on that comes to mind with parking the trucks is I and I think I've already marked my words in another episode, maybe not, but I believe that because of the things like the ships being offshore, the stuff that's happening in Canada right now, the stuff that could possibly happen across our country, I believe that's going to give them one of the first footholds of saying, okay, this can never happen again. We have to take control of shipping, oil, iron, steel, copper, all these things, so that we can never have this disruption ever happen again. And what happens when you get government controlled business, government regulated business on a scale like that? That's the absolute bottom line building blocks of socialism. Because you already have control of the currency. I mean, Joe Biden and Nancy Pelosi and these the puppets of the puppeteers and the people that actually pull the strings are the ones that own the money. Joe Biden and all these other such, they're pawns. They're pawns in the chess game. But I've wondered ever since the stuff being stuck offshores on the ships, if that wasn't going to provide them the optimal opportunity to come in and say, we can never allow, especially right now, The one that continually does not get talked about that I want to hear about, and it's because nobody ever wants to point the finger at China. Nobody ever. I don't know where that stereotype came from. Like, you try to get, and I've been looking into this a lot lately. Go and try to get an anti-China billboard. Go and try. See what company's
Yeah.
actually going to do it. So why isn't anybody asking the question of where these microchips and microprocessors are? For decades, they've pumped these things out, and then just all of a sudden, oh, you're not hearing about the new iPhone. Oh, we're not seeing commercials blasted everywhere for the new Subi. Like, what's truly going on here where you want to talk about certain aspects and not others of a failing economy? Like, if you're going to talk about the failing economy, how come you're not talking about every aspect of what's going on? We have empty car lots. Not saying that, you know, everybody buying a brand new car every year is the utmost important thing, but put that into perspective of how many things run on microprocessors. Yeah, right now we're good. We'd probably be good, at least cell phone wise and whatever have you. If technology never furthered, we'd probably be good for another 10 years. But think about all the things that break and they get thrown out. And all those little things that you don't think about that have these chips and these microprocessors in them, but yet you never hear this aspect being talked about. And
Right.
it's not COVID anymore. Everything's back up and running. We're good to a degree. Everything's back up and running. So it's not COVID anymore. So, you know, imagine if the internet went out tomorrow, and if you don't have microchips and microprocessors to run things, you essentially aren't going to have the internet at a certain point. We are producing a rate worldwide when it comes to microchips and microprocessors, an 80%
Right.
decrease since before COVID. Now COVID's over. Where's the kickstart? I mean, the rest of our economy is failing. Don't get me wrong, but that boils down on a national level to GDP and various things. But for decades, our trade route, one of the countries around the world main trade routes with China, is these chips and these processors, and it's just pretty much come to a halt. So one of the very few things that they were giving us that was worth anything is now also not being distributed as well. That's why you see used cars going for like $4,000 or $5,000 right now, and it's crazy how even in a failing system, there's certain things that they will address and other things that they won't address. And one of the reasons why they don't want to address it is because of their stupid electric cars. That's one of the main reasons why they don't want to address it, because if they address microchips and microprocessor production failing, okay, then where's all your green energy components even coming from in the first place?
Well, that's just it. You know, if a government wanted to destroy an economy, the best place to start is the automotive industry, because you've got the assembly plants, the engine plants, transmission plants, parts plants. Now the workers have to have, maybe they go to the bar after they or restaurant to go get something to eat, or they're stored. It affects everybody around the plants themselves. So, growing up the son of an auto worker, this was back in the 80s. This was something that was quite prevalent, is the threatening of a closure of a plant that my dad worked at and whatnot. When a plant does close, the whole economy, the economy as a whole in a certain area, to a certain extent, fails. So, without the microchips, the ECM microchips, you can't start an engine, you can't move a car. So they can build the cars, they'll leave the cars parked until they can get the microchips put on them, then they can get them on trucks or trains and get them to the auto dealers. And if anybody goes goes by an auto dealer and go, wow, that lot is empty. Well, there's a reason for that. And these we depend on other countries for vital components, well, that other country decides, we're going to hold these back because we can destroy the economy of our rival nation. You know, and the United States has been an economic superpower for well over 100 years since the rise of the Industrial Revolution. So um, that is a very serious thing in which they can do, and it trickles on down to other manufacturing. People are laid off; they don't have the money. They don't have the money; they can't go buy things. Next thing you know, we've got an economy that's in a deep recession. And notwithstanding, we've got inflation, interest rates going up. Both sides of government would love to raise taxes because they love to spend money. And, so these are all components that put together, we're in some serious trouble if we don't get our economy rolling and get these ships, to store and get them offloaded, and especially getting the automotive industry back on track, which is slowly starting. But now with the Ambassador Bridge that was closed and the Blue Water Bridge that was closed, those two right there, I cross the Blue Water when I go to Canada. Those are two in the Peace Bridge in Buffalo are three of the busiest ports of entry in the country. If they're shut down, there's a lot of parts that come out of Canada, go to U.S. automakers or parts from here that go to Canadian automakers rather, and that's done is already made a bad situation worse.
Yeah, and to all the viewers, dude, make no mistake, I know there's plenty of um, other things like our meat shelves being empty, our bread shelves being empty. I know that there's plenty other things besides technology and microchips and microprocessors. What I meant in saying that is it seems more and more that's just another variant of how we um, tend to not put blame where blame lies. And part of the reason why we have the shortages, other than that, of what we do with our food and our gas and everything like that, we know where that's coming from. And we know that it's a 1, 2, 3 punch. We know that we were given endless amounts of free money when all this stuff was going down. And free money is never free. We know it. We know it has to be paid back in some way, shape, or form. It's either we pay it back or our kids and their kids pay it back afterward. And right now, statistically, our money with inflation and you factor everything in. I was reading an article the other day. Our money is actually worth less now in comparison with all things considered to what it was during the Great Depression. We hold on now because of how much money of ours is worldwide. And we have the worldwide currency when it comes to oil. That's the only reason that our money survives at all right now. Let alone
Yeah.
let alone a dollar being worth 72 cents, could possibly be lower right by now. You go to the grocery store, it's like the Great Depression. You go to the grocery store, it's 4.20 for a pound of hamburger. Go there the next day, 6.75. It's probably not that high, but either way, we are seeing the slow ripples right now, and it's going through everything. It's reaching through everything now, and we have become such a throwaway society that anything like we were talking about earlier, the things that you throw away on a regular basis and don't even think about it. That's what we've boiled down to, is a throwaway society. You produce, 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 and make sure it breaks so that people want to buy it the next year and buy the new and improved. Or in Apple's case, you just slow down your old phones a little bit and make it so everybody has to buy a new one. But that's part of our problem as well. And especially when it comes to city life. Me, I live in the country and couldn't love it any more than anything. I can go out in the woods and shoot a deer if I want, if things get way too bad. But people have got to realize where the things are breaking down at. And they're breaking down on some of the most concrete levels: our healthcare, our trucking and transport industry and shipping. These things, and not only are these things having to be defended first, but they're having to be defended first because they're being attacked first. And who's attacking them? Who's telling
Their own government.
who's telling them that they got to get this in their arm? We won't say these words anymore because we're not going to face what we've been facing here on this freaking platform. But who's the one telling them that they have to get this and do this and jump through X, Y, and Z hoop, or and not even just like me and Dane have talked about, not even just the injections, not even just the mandates, but before, back and before, when they first instituted that you had to have a passport to go back and forth across the border, and even before that, when it comes to trucking, all the regulations piled on top of regulations, piled on top of regulations, and then sprinkled some mandates on there. But they've been being killed and killed and killed and killed and killed. And just like the healthcare industry, same thing. Frontline workers, essential workers, same thing as truckers. Frontline workers, essential workers. Oh, you don't want to comply? Here, let's beat you into the ground until you either submit or we completely exile you. Look at Canada right now, tapping into people's bank
Yep.
accounts. Tapping into people's bank accounts. We will ruin you. You either do what we say or we will ruin you. And like Dane said earlier, people don't think that this can come to our doorstep. Well, newsflash, sorry, it's pretty much already here. We just have these rights that cause us to not see things. Sometimes we figure that, oh, if that ever happens, we'll be able to just pick up arms and pick up pitchforks and go and defend ourselves. Well, not exactly. That's not exactly how it's going to work. We need you a little bit before then. We could use your help now. So, like I tell everybody, if you could wake up a little bit faster or help wake up your neighbor a little bit faster, that would be fantastic. Because we want people living in this disillusion the least amount of time possible. Because if we're going to do this, this literally has to be a worldwide movement. And we're going to play a video here in just a little bit. My new favorite song, our anthem, Marching into the Future. And you're going to see what's happening around the world. You're going to see exactly what they don't want you to see. The people, more and more people, we are getting to see the awakening every day. More and more.
Now, Ethan, I want to add something to that too. Economically speaking, there's a timeline. Start from 1871, the passing of the Incorporated United States Act, to 1910, which was the passing of the Federal Reserve Act, which gave us the Federal Reserve, aka central bank, which gave us what started that slow turn from gold and silver, which holds intrinsic value, to a paper currency. That morphed into the passing of the 16th Amendment, which was passed unconstitutionally because the states did not vote on it. It was passed in the House and the Senate, signed by the president. Now, that gave us the income tax. Now they open the floodgates of the income tax. They can tax you for whatever you want, double, triple. That's taxation without representation. Forward on to 1933, FDR's executive order banning the private ownership of gold and silver bullion, punishable by a large fine and imprisonment, up to the New Deal. Well, you had the Great Depression, and wrapped into there. Then you had the New Deal, which was the largest expansion of government in the 20th century. All the way to, then we had World War II, we had Korea, Vietnam. Then in 1970, Richard Nixon put the final nail in the coffin of the gold and silver standard by pretty much ending it, taking it right out of the circulation for legal tender currency and going with the petrodollar. Um, that petrodollar in 1913, when the Federal Reserve Act was the Federal Reserve Act was passed, was worth $1. Now, a lot of analysts say it's worth anywhere from 3 to 10 cents, depending on who you hear. We are dangerously close to insolvency. We get to the point where that dollar's worth zero. Hang on to your rear ends, because hyperinflation is right around the corner, and it will rear its ugly head, and we will be Venezuela.
Yep, and that's yet another reason why I'm so thankful to live in the country. I implore people to read the signs. Just look for yourself. You know, and it's just a sad thing to think about because speaking more on the statistics that I was bringing up earlier, we're only at 2.3% on this inflation, people, and they expect us to go to 4.7. So that you think $4 a gallon for gas is bad? Here in Michigan, California, and things, that's going to differ. But you think $4 a gallon for gas here is bad? Try 8. You think $5 a roll for a hamburger is expensive? Try 10.
Yeah.
And this is where we are projected to go. And then they're going to crash the entire economy, and then they're going to come on TV and say, "Oh, well, now we have no choice but to join the New World Order with the rest of these countries. Otherwise, we're not going to have an economy. We're going to be screwed." You can read the itinerary. Go to un.org, put in the search bar 2030, and you will find the 2030 agenda on their own website and everything that they articulate to do up until the year 2030 and beyond. I actually have their plan for 5 years after 2030 in the bottom of my tabs right now. Haven't gotten the chance to read it yet. It's a new document of their outlook for 4 to 5 years after everything in this plan has been implemented. Once again, coming from the UN website. These are not things that they figure that they are so over the crest that they can just bomb everything, in a sense, now, just bomb everything. They're not hiding anything. They're not providing
No.
proof of why we're thinking of going to war with Russia. They're not sentencing Hillary Clinton on anything that's been found. That's a minor example, but still, the point being, they're not hiding it anymore. They're not hiding it from us. They used to do that for years with all these secret programs and this research and telling this person these secret patents and all this stuff. They're not doing that no more. They're doing it right in front of us. And people have got to notice. People have got to stop thinking that we live in this fairy tale world where everybody's going to find peace and prosperity one day, and all these governments are going to come together, and everybody's going to find each other. These 5, 6, 10 people at the top are never going to let that happen. And
No.
that is one of the biggest points of what I do every day. Is we can mess with Senator McBroom and Gretchen Whitmer and Joe Biden, and we can mess with all these people at the bottom. But at the end of the day, George Soros and James Rockefeller are your president and vice president of the world. Let's just make that completely blatantly clear. And
Right.
and this is not conspiracy talk. And this can get. I would not be surprised if this got banned off of YouTube for me simply saying George Soros, but everybody has got to realize when you go to even a simple site like Yahoo Finance, for example, and you go and you look at the top investors in these Fortune 500 companies, you're going to find the same top 3 to 5 people and investors and companies every single time. And then when you dig a little bit deeper than that, you're going to find out who owns those companies. And then when you dig out a little bit deeper, you're going to find out what boards they had under people like George Soros and James Rockefeller. And everybody knows it. If they don't, they really will soon. And Greenland already did it. Greenland did it. What was it? 2016. They put all their banksters in jail and half of their politicians in jail and took their country back. I mean, granted, they are trying to auction themselves off to other countries at the moment, but it's because they didn't have the structure in place in the first place. We could always rebuild in the original vision of our founding fathers and be back on track. Yeah, it's going to take a lot from a lot of people. You're going to have to get a little bit of morality back in your lives and take the technology out of your face a little bit more often instead of jumping into it like Zuckerberg with his metaverse. Screw Facebook. That's why I'm on YouTube in the freaking first place. It's because Facebook won't let me go live and give you guys information anymore. I can post all day long. Can't give people information anymore. This style. Anyway. But it's like the post the other day with Andrew Jackson and Woodrow Wilson. Andrew Jackson was the only president, to my knowledge, to ever have a national debt of zero. And there's a reason why he was also the first president to face impeachment. And that was a driving factor in that because he didn't like the idea of a centralized bank coming in again. Woodrow Wilson, what did he say after his presidency was over and he had met in that secret meeting that they did that wasn't even, it's not even ratified in our Constitution, that they met in that secret meeting. He is the most unhappy man that he has sold out the moral of his country. That our monetary system is no longer based on a system of gold bullion, but on a system of credit. Now I'm paraphrasing, of course, but that
right.
we are not judged by our value anymore, but by the will of a few small number of men. And that is verified to the extent, because I made sure of it. I made sure to completely verify that he definitely said that, and that is definitely something that he said. Just like the letter that I posted, the content of the letter from Andrew Jackson to John Coffey. And people like Dane here, truckers, and our people working medical on the front line, like I said, this is who they attack first. Because these are the base structures. You don't have transport around the country or people that transport that won't do what you say. We can't have that. You have healthcare workers that have knowledge and can treat people and give people medicine in their own homes and things to that nature, holistic medicine if they wanted to. We can't have that. And that is why they are trying to shut these people down. Is because if you are going to try to control the lifelines and the bloodlines of a country and a country's economy and how a country functions, two of the base essentials, it's going to be transport of goods and how people get their health care. People gotta start thinking with this more. People gotta start thinking with your brain more, and see this big picture. Like I said, 2030 agenda, United Nations website. That'll help you out tremendously. I know that I've plugged this 100 times throughout my shows, but that will help you out tremendously. You will see about that half of that's already done.
Well, and I'll add to that, Ethan. The thing of it is we the people can come together and we can right the ship. However, we're a long way from that. Our country's been evacuating morality since, well, prayer was taken out of schools in 1962, and it's just been going downhill ever since, right down to the destruction of the nuclear family. We're pinning races and creeds and skin color and sexual orientation, all these different things are coming together. The political parties are unconstitutional. They're used as a divisive tool. to divide the people. You got the Democrats here and the Republicans there. You've got right versus left. They're bickering among one another. Meanwhile, the scumbags in office are conspiring to destroy our country. And the thing of it is we need to get back to the Christian roots of the founding of our country. And if we don't do that, we are going to sink like the Titanic. And with that being said, it may come to that point but we need leaders in counties and communities and neighborhoods. So if it does go bad, we have people that can administer health care, grow food, hunt, fish, and come together as communities, because it may just get to that point. Do I think it's going to get to that point? No. I think the hand of Almighty God is on all this. You see what's going on in Canada, not to mention what's going on in the rest of the world. We are so far behind the rest of the world in protesting and speaking out and in defying the tyrants, as to why I started this Facebook group based on Matt Schwella's book. Disobedience of tyrants is an obedience to God. You get that into play. Now, the Bible says that if a government is governing in a godly manner, we are to obey that government and men. If they're not, if they're doing evil in the sight of God, we are supposed to defy them. With that being said, I think the intuition of not only the American people, but the people throughout the world are just getting to the point where they've reached their precipice. They've had enough of being locked down, mandates. They're having enough of government telling them what to do and how to live their lives. And the only way we're going to reclaim our liberty is to come together as one people. We come together as one people, like Canada. Why is everything happening in Canada with the violence and the arrest made? Because that government is losing, and they're losing badly, and they know it. And when tyrants, they will be silent. It's kind of more of a soft tyranny, just incremental steps in evacuating people's civil liberties until they see, oh crap, we are in trouble. We have the whole country against us. Now it's time to bring out the big guns, per se. And this is the biggest problem here, is that we in the United States, we've had it so easy. We have not been oppressed like people in Canada and people in Australia and New Zealand and in the European countries. So we're kind of seeing, okay, things may look like they're getting back to normal. Well, there's a reason for that. We've been socially conditioned for the last 100 years through our failing educational system that the federal government has hijacked unconstitutionally, that we're to think that government's going to fix everything. Well, they're going to fix what they've already destroyed. And sorry about that. Hold on.
Technical difficulties.
Yeah. Hey, it wouldn't be right if it was live, right? There we go.
Absolutely.
And anyway, so my point is that we need to come together as one people and come together for a common goal, and that common goal is liberty. And liberty is a gift from God. It's not granted by government. When people understand that, and as I tell people, go pick up a pocket constitution, read it, understand it. I mean, go and pick up, read the Declaration of Independence. Even read the Mayflower Compact. Hold on 1 second here. If you're lucky enough to come across one of these, this is all the writings for the Mayflower Compact all the way to today. This is a handy book to be able to understand what our country's true history is, not the history they want to teach in the public schools. And if you look at communist countries throughout all the time, the government's taken over the education system, healthcare, transportation, much to the point where you even look like a democratic socialist country that was taken over through a legal election by Chavez in Venezuela. They started nationalizing every sector, all the way down to oil, to energy, to everything, and that country is a crap hole.
And see, what did they bet on? What did Venezuela bet on? Oil. They bet they bet it all on oil, and and
well, they have an overabundance of it, but government went to the people through their media and said, "Oh, these evil rich people and this and that." Well, that turned the people against the corporations who are in cahoots with the government. So not all of them were, but the government amasses that kind of power, nothing good ever happens of it. If you notice, when there is an expansion of government, the price of everything always goes up, and your liberties always go down. It's never anything but the two. Don't believe me? Try to go into an airport post 9/11 after the implementation of the Patriot Act. It sounds great. It sounds, hey, we're all going to be safe, but the government is just giving themselves more power unconstitutionally.
Some of the most scary words. I'm the government, and I'm here to help you. Try to. Speaking of airports, try to go to an airport now. You're basically hostage in your own country, if not in your own state, unless you've been, poked. But, essentially right now, you're a hostage in your own country. You ain't going where you please, which is another violation of, free travel in our Constitution, that's outlined in our Constitution. It doesn't matter if it's plane, train, or automobile. There's not subtext, just like there's not subtext for the Second Amendment. And this all, it's like we were saying, this all boils down to, liberty and freedoms. And we have one entity to answer to. And if you guys haven't been on the page, if you haven't gotten to hear this song yet, it's by High Res and Jimmy Levy, and they always do a fantastic job with anything that they come out with. And these are the things that need to be being talked about in all forms of our media, whether it's music, on the news, just speaking the truth. People are tired. People of the world, not just our country, people of the world are tired. And that's exactly what you're going to see here, is people of the world are just sick and fed up, and we're done. So for the next few minutes here, we are going to play this for you guys, and I hope it makes you feel as empowered as it did for me when I first got to listen to it.
They want you locked in your home without God and alone. Don't want you looking up Dr. Sebi and Robert Malone. The truth blocked on your phones. They call the shots from their throne. These politicians and these doctors, they are not in control. Jimmy,
uncover the face that the Lord created so it can be seen. Tired of the fake trending all over the place. We just want to be free. There's no fear with faith is praising till we're hiding underneath all the passive threats and trauma that came from this tyranny. We won't bow down to the golden cow and do as it pleases. We don't care what they say, it's God over the government. Won't have it any other way, it's God over the government. And we just don't understand how they put their faith in man. We don't care what they say, it's God over the government.
God over government, lies that they're covering, innocent suffering, won't let our freedom freedom just crumble and disappear without a fight and a struggle. They want us so sick and don't want you recovering. Want you depressed and addicted to pills that they giving. Not trusting decisions of these politicians. Right or left wing, it's not really that different. But fashion your prison, they want you dependent on them. It's a sickness. Well, God is my witness. I don't need permission. They causing division throughout television. They coming for children and all the traditions. So get ammunition, prepare for the war. The revolution is in store. I'm waiting for them at my door, removing the freedoms to force, of course. Judgment day is more important than court. I feel this deep in my bones, in my core. I'm going hard till the freedom restored, or until they put me up in the floor.
We don't care what they say, it's God over the government. Won't have it any other way, it's God over the government. And we just don't understand how they put their faith in man. We don't care what they say, it's God over the government.
Hey, a patient that's cured is a customer loss. People still buying let the Holocaust happen in front of their eyes while people just die. Stop demanding these laws. Hey, government wanna replace all the parents. We cannot let them go tear us apart. Whether this all is apparent or not, don't care if these Karens are caring or not. We gon' be one nation gone under, if we not one nation under God. Bringing the people together through music. Me and Jimmy never gonna stop. I ain't trusting no CNN, MSNBC, or no Fox. Hey, all get funded from the same people trying to keep us all in that box. Hey, I ain't doing this for money, I ain't doing this for no props. We gotta start holding politicians accountable in that swamp.
We don't care what they say, it's God over the government. Won't have it any other way, it's God over the government. And we just don't understand how they put their faith in man. We don't care what they say, it's God over the government. If we're not one nation under God, then we will be one nation going under. We won't get our freedom, I comply. So parents, please protect your sons and daughters. We don't care what they say, it's God over the government. Won't have it any other way, it's God over the government. And we just don't understand how they put their faith in man. We don't care what they say, it's God over the government.
That Bible verse, like you had just said. And I love how they added that there at the end, because everybody needs to know that what this is truly about. I've seen one article from a decent news source actually use the words freedom convoy. And I'm not talking like, yeah, left outlets and right outlets. Forget which one it was. But they actually used the words freedom convoy. And I was actually surprised. I was really surprised, because I've seen anti-vax convoy, I've seen vax mandate convoy, I've seen anti-road convoy at the very beginning of this. It's so funny how people forget stuff like that. Trudeau with, they seem to be upset with the road conditions. Yeah, that's really what they're upset with. One of the last things that I think me and Dane find really important that I'd like to cover this episode is the importance of, doesn't matter what it is, doesn't matter if you refuse to wear a mask when somebody tells you to, or if you go and protest at your local sheriff's office, or if you go to a school board meeting, or if you run for office, or if you just pay attention to what's going on and question everything that's going on around you. We need everybody involved in some way. And people say, "Oh, I don't get into politics. I don't like to ruffle feathers. I like to just stay in my bubble. I like to just do this. I want to just do that." Well, one of the main questions that I always ask them, especially if you have a family, is how would you like being told what days of the week that you can go to the grocery store, and when it's your turn to go to the grocery store, when whatever letter your last name of your family might end in, what items you're able to buy, because X person in line needs 3 onions, and so you're only allowed to have 2 because their family's bigger than yours. Uh, and these are true things. It's been on display. It just happened in Venezuela not that long ago. There was coupons that depending on the size of your family, that's what you turned in, and that's what they would give you, what they deemed enough for you and your family for the week. Are you going to be okay with that? Are you going to be okay with? And we're not talking. That's another thing I hear. Oh, our military won't listen to them. Blah 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 blah. We just seen another UN plane touchdown in Canada last night. They don't have to use our military, and I just posted it today. Go look at that UN soldier oath. They swear nothing but allegiance to the United Nations and anything that the United Nations orders them to do. It doesn't matter any variant of any country or any country's laws or their people. And these are the things that people have to come to the realization of. I've been screaming this for 15 years about these people that pull strings at the top. And now these people are out in the light. I don't know how they get out in the light. I don't know how these creatures manage to walk among us and not be scarred by any good thing that they manage to see. But they're out in the light. And this is a world stage. That's why this country goes to war with this country. It's because there's a resource over here and this country's powerful enough to go in and take it. That's why America, ever since the British stopped, and the British, I actually thought they were going the right direction for a little bit with Brexit. They stopped policing the world, and when America took over, it's like I told Dane the other day, name one democracy in the entire world that we've ever established. One. Ever.
Not one.
Because
Well, now I want to add to that too, Ethan, if I could.
yeah,
We are in the 11th hour. We're at a crossroad right now. Do we want liberty or do we want tyranny? The elitists want to put this into the Great Reset. Well, the Great Reset sounds great on paper. I mean, debt's paid off. You have no debt at all. You own nothing. So, for example, say you're living in your house and government officials say, we have this family from X country here. We're going to place them with you. You got no say because you own nothing. The state owns everything. Now, where I alluded to before is that I truly believe that God has got his eyes fixated on what we, the people, are going to do. How are we going to fight this evil? We are going to win because God wins in the end. Jesus did it on the cross. However, we're living it out right now. I think we have a golden opportunity to right the ship. And to be honest with you, Ethan, I'm excited. I'm not scared. I'm not afraid of what may or may not happen. I'm excited because what I'm seeing around the world is the intuition of unity. And this is the biggest fear that the enemy has is unity. And I think we're going to get it here. I think we're the last kid on the block to get it. Like I said before, people know that things are not normal, things are not right. They just don't know what is wrong. They don't know where to turn to get answers. And this is where we, the patriots, come in. You know, and if you talk to people, they may try to debunk you. They may try to call you a conspiracy theorist, a tinfoil hat wearing nut. Keep on them, because every day that passes by with what's going on in the world and what's going on here is going to be another day closer to them figuring it out. And we can break the chains of the social conditioning that they put us on over the last 100 years. We're going to win our country back, and I truly believe that. And the other thing is, too, the county sheriff is the highest elected official, rather, in the county. If you want to know which way your sheriff goes, ask them if they're going to honor their constitutional oath. If we get mandates again, or whether it's from the federal or the state, are they going to engage in nullification or interposition? If they don't know what that is, that's a problem. If they say, no, we're not going to do any of that, that's a problem. You know, this is why we have the Second Amendment. This is why we have the First, the Fourth, the Fifth, the 10th. And if you don't know what nullification interposition is, you can go on Matt Twello's website, defietyrants.com. He's got sermons on there. He's got outlinings of what nullification interposition actually is. The practice of it, I can give you a brief overview real quick, is a sheriff nullifying said unconstitutional mandates or laws or anything that was passed unconstitutionally, and then he can interpose, and he should interpose on the behalf of his people, whether it's businesses or individuals. A prime example of that would be Richard Mack back in the mid-'90s with defending his county from the Brady Bill, which is a gun grab. He took it to the U.S. Supreme Court against Janet Reno and the Department of Justice, and he won a landmark case. That's what a sheriff should be doing, is protecting and serving. I mean, you see it marked on the squad cars, to protect and serve. In God we trust. Honor it. That's what needs to happen. Honor it. And once the people gain this kind of knowledge, they can go to the candidates and go, okay, are you doing this, this, and this? And if they're not, then you know who not to vote for. The days of going and strolling into a voting booth and go, oh, I recognize that guy. Those days should be coming to an end, because that guy has been active in screwing the American people and active in the destruction of our constitutional republic.
And see, that's one of the biggest things, and I ran into this problem with my sheriff, and the sheriff of Ingham County as well, where Lansing is, or most of it, is they think that just because they view themselves, and this is their mentality, they view themselves as the little guy in the situation. The ones that I've encountered and tried to have things accomplished with, they view themselves as the little guy in the situation. And it's like, think about our whole country on a grand scale. Our entire country was set up from people to have a voice from the bottom all the way up. There's always clauses and regards all the way up the chain of command for situations like this. I don't care if normally this would be a case for the Attorney General. It happened in your county. It doesn't matter if the Attorney General is holding people accountable in the situation. Okay, so let's say there's a bank robbery that happens, but they robbed numerous banks, because we're going to use some of the context of the phone conversation with my sheriff. Oh, that happened all over the state. Okay, so we're going to say that somebody robs a bank in all 83 counties. One of them's my county. I get in touch with my sheriff. I want these people prosecuted. I was the owner of the bank, or I had money at one of the banks that they robbed, so I want this to be investigated. My sheriff says no. That's being taken care of by the Attorney General. So you mean to tell me that I don't have, or nor do you have, a personal ability or responsibility on my local level to be able to hold people accountable that I want to hold accountable for crimes they committed? And it's no different, and I'm not going to say certain things. My one episode, that was the reason for my 2-week ban. But the job that happened in 2020 can be handled on a local level. And if your sheriff or your prosecuting attorney do not want to handle it on a local level, when provided evidence under MCL 168.940 and 168.941, they can be charged with derelict of duty. Knowingly and willfully disregarding your oath of office or failing to uphold your duties that have been given to you by your state or federal constitution is classified as derelict of duty, at least in the state of Michigan. It's classified as derelict of duty, and they can be charged. And they have to be held accountable. We have to make them realize these things.
Now, if you look at Newton County, Missouri, their county commissioner, their county board got together with the sheriff. They passed their county is a Second Amendment sanctuary county. Now the sheriff has, and he always has, he has the legal, lawful ability to nullify any unlawful, unconstitutional edicts passed by the Biden regime. So, say for example, they want to engage in gun confiscation. Well, if federal agents go in there trying to enforce that, guess what? Not only can the sheriff nullify it, which he's already planning on doing, based on their ordinance, they also interpose on it, and they can do two things. They can take their deputies and get between the people and the federal agents, and they have the constitutional duty to deputize legal gun owners in that county and form a sheriff's posse. Now, they can legally and lawfully arrest any federal agent coming to try to confiscate guns or enforce any unconstitutional edict. That's what the county sheriff's role constitutionally is, and most county sheriffs in this country don't follow it. That's how far we've come from the principles of our founding through the Declaration of Independence.
Oh no!
And the Constitution.
Oh no! That would be extremism, don't you know? That'd be extremism. Get out of here! What are you talking about? That's not That's not written down anywhere. But see, that's the mentality that people hold, is that this is just extremism. No, these things. When we were,
oh yeah, the Second Amendment for hunting, right?
right. You know, we were. You know, let me put you in a scenario. I have everybody's always welcome to join my Discord as well. I put the description in the link, or the description in the link in the description of the videos. But I have a channel in there called The Tavern, and it was a very real thing. They were already declared the United States of America and had been getting into this, and it didn't just happen overnight. And at any point, even though they had declared themselves a sovereign nation, a sovereign people, British Guard could at any moment come into any of their houses, the bars and taverns that they were meeting at, and take them. And they were members of, and there was nothing they could do about it. They were part of the crown. There was no local anything established under the higher power, which was the king, and what he said went. And so, do people hold that mentality again, that just what Big Brother says goes, what the federal government says goes, that there's no steps down the ladder, there's no, the people have the power? Does that just go away in people's minds? It does for a lot of these people in the swamp. But this is the one thing that we have to remember more than anything, is what Dane has just been talking about, is you can, there's plenty, we have plenty of people fighting from the top down. We have plenty of people right now. People like Mike Lindell, Donald Trump, Trump Jr. You know, we have plenty of people, Patrick Colbeck, that are fighting from the top down. But we are the ants. We are the ants to them. But you can, if you get enough fire ants on a person, you can do some damage. And that's exactly what we have to be. Is we have to be the driving force. I'll be the first to admit, especially right now during the winter, I spend a lot more time here than I'm able to out in the field. A good chunk of that being because I have to work and I have my family in addition to doing this. But just like the other week, I took a day off work. I went down to Lansing. I'm not saying woo me, but I took the day off work. I went down to Lansing. I testified at the State Board of Education meeting. I made sure I took the time. And then I went over to the rally that they were holding at the Capitol building that Patrick Colbeck had started. It cost me X amount of gas, my time, food, and taking the day off of work. But you know what? It doesn't, to me, it doesn't matter. None of that matters. What matters is that, and I've said this a time or two, I want to be able to look at my kids, when they are older and the world has been shaping around them, and they ask me what I did to help stop it, I want to be able to tell them something. I want to be able to tell them that I took a stand even when it might be difficult. And I've had definitely a lot of stands that people have been unhappy with, but you know what? Reality is reality. You can't change it. You have to face it. It's like my mom always used to tell me, you know what you can't do in any situation. And usually it was about a woman. But you know what you can't do in a situation. Figure out what you can do. Figure out what you can do to make something better. Figure out what you can do to make a situation better. Mainly your situation. Talking to all those blue collar guys just like me, just like Dane here. They go out and they work their jobs every day and they just want to be able to provide for their families. Women too. Women too. Blue collar gals too. But we know. We get it. Hear us out. It's like I tell you guys all the time to question everything, including what you see on this show. But always be willing to change your perspective. Once you get closed-minded, that's when we lose. That's when we lose numbers, is when people get closed-minded. Don't blow your neighbor off for saying some tinfoil hat thing or some conspiracy theory, or you might think it's a conspiracy thing. Don't blow those people off. If you're one of the ones that need to be awake, don't blow those people off. Open up your ears sometimes and shut your mouth. It always takes two to argue. A lot of times we want to sit on these sidelines, we want to be right and left, and we want to just huck rocks back and forth across this no man's land where nobody's meeting in the middle. And we want to just keep hucking rocks. Well, you can only huck rocks so long before you either get tired and give up and just go back to whatever else you were doing, or you give up and die. And I don't think anybody, no matter what side of the aisle you consider yourself on, wants that to happen to our planet. And that's exactly where we're at. It's like we were talking about with our unity. We have to come together, even if we meet in no man's land. Even if we meet together in no man's land and we charge towards the true enemy together, that's the ultimate goal here. I don't care about a left or right. Screw a politician. I have my race. I'm not a politician. I just care of what direction our future goes in. And everybody should just at least a little bit. Being into politics or caring about the world doesn't mean that you tune into Fox every night, or you tune into CNN, or you see what's going on, or you listen to your brother next door that read the Wall Street Journal. It means you look for yourself. It's what we're lacking. It's people thinking critically and thinking for themselves, turning off the TV once in a while and putting down the phone, getting your face out of the newspaper. And like Dane said, that's what patriots like us are here for. To help wake this world up just a little bit more at a time.
Well, also, Ethan, I'll put it in this context. I think everybody's seen a Miss America pageant. What do the contestants say that they want to do more than anything? World peace. We have a golden opportunity to be the nation that comes together with other nations and defeats tyranny. There's your world peace. You know, we throughout our whole lives, we've seen perpetual war. We've seen terrorist attacks. We've seen bloodshed. What we haven't seen is true liberty. None of us know what it's like to have true, unfiltered liberty and an actual, true free market, because it's been evacuated. We've lost that well over 100 years ago. And as long as we keep on the path we're going to keep on, it's going to get tougher and tougher and tougher. And like what you said, Ethan, things are going to get more expensive. And who hurts the most? The poor, the middle class. average working everyday folks. This the high gas going up to $8 a gallon is not going to affect the millionaire. You know, it's going to affect somebody that's got they got money in their bank account and they put their bills out for the week and go, okay, I have X amount of dollars for heat, X amount of dollars for gas, X amount of dollars for groceries and whatnot. The church that I attend, last year we started a food bank, you know, basically a food type little supermarket. And I've had more people come in and say, thank God for you guys, because I don't know how I was going to be able to pay for my meds this month or if I was even going to eat. We live in the United States of America. We should never have to choose between vital medicines to keep us alive and healthy and food, or food and heat, or heat and gas in your car. You know, I'm so sick and tired of hearing politicians saying, we got to fix this and we got to fix that. No, get out of the way and let the American people fix it. Let the American business fix it.
Yeah,
because American politicians are ruining it. They're not fixing anything.
it's like that video I posted the other day of a Cuban guy. I believe he was 36. It was the first time he had ever ate a steak. Because why? Because he was from Cuba. And do you know how much? Do you know how much beef is a pound? $15.
Yeah.
15, and he specifically said that's for the rich people and politicians. He specifically said they basically live on the pigs that they slaughter and the chickens that they keep. There's people that are in their 30s that have literally never tasted beef. And that's why, because it's just like in North Korea. Do you think that half of the population, we'll say 89% of the population, has ever tasted Jack Daniels? No, probably not. But Mr. Fatso over there is the biggest consumer of Jack Daniels in the entire world. He orders over 500 barrels a year. 500. So and people say the trickle down economics don't work from the top down with, business owners and passing that on. I've discussed my views before on, if you're a business owner and you make 1.5 back times your profit, especially somebody like Jeff Bezos invests 30 million, makes 90 million back, he should have to offer profit sharing to his workers and stakes in the company itself. But there are things that can be done in that system, yes, because everybody agrees that capitalism is not exactly perfect. Everybody knows that. Everybody agrees on that fact. But it is the best system that we have to date. And there are things that can be changed about capitalism. I don't disagree with that. I fully believe, especially when you come get into politicians being involved with shares in Google and invest in a Coca-Cola and solar energy and all these things. I fully believe that there are things that should and can be adjusted and have attention brought to with capitalism. But a constitutional republic, that's not up for debate. That Constitution,
No.
That's not up for debate. We can debate capitalism all you want because, yeah, there, like I said, there's definitely things that can be fixed. But we will not discuss, debate, or try to change or nullify our constitutional republic or the way it was founded or the structure that was put in place when it was founded. Like I said to Dane the other day, unless it's a moral concern. Moral concern is totally different than a political concern. Moral concern is something like the issue of slavery, as opposed to trying to define what the Second Amendment means in a political sense. Two completely different scenarios, completely different situations there. But other than on a moral standard, when it comes to our republic and our Constitution and our rights and our liberties and our freedoms, there's no negotiation. We can negotiate capitalism versus socialism. We can do that. Yeah, I'm sure there's probably a few points of common ground there. But right now, it's the best system we have. It's the best way to encourage people to do good with themselves and to do good in their lives. There went my camera for a second. We're back. But we want you guys to have the best information, no matter if it's right, left, center, in between. We want you guys to know what's going on in your state, your country, your world, because we can get distracted a lot. Our society's been built for us to be distracted on what's the new game or what's the new sports show coming on or have you seen this TV series. People ask me that stuff all the time. I'm like, have you seen this new show? No, I don't really watch TV. Did you see this? No. Oh, what about this? Nope, I didn't do that either. And it's because I'm so hyper focused on real world, what I consider real world scenarios and real world situations. Why do I want to spend, and not everybody's like me, but why do I want to spend an hour or 2 hours or 3 hours watching a football game when I can be doing research and helping people get what they need and get what they need to have to understand the actual true reality of what we're living in. It is all crumbling. And you can never say that we're not going to win because we wouldn't be allowed to come this far to lose. We wouldn't be allowed to come as far as we are right now and lose. That's not how this happens. Sometimes life is like a Disney movie. We don't come this far and lose. That's not what happens. We don't get all this enlightenment and not have victory at the end of the day. That is the grand plan. We have victory when all this is over. You ever wonder what was meant by the meek shall inherit the earth? You ever wonder what was meant? You ever wonder what was meant by that? I'll leave that for you guys to contemplate for the end of this one tonight. I want to thank Dane for coming on here and chatting with me and getting some information dished out to these people because there's people that always know different things than I do, things that I don't have any clue about, and I always love learning more. You should always learn something more every day. That's one important thing that I can tell you that you should do. Every single day, you should aspire to learn something new every single day. It's very helpful, and you will be so knowledgeable by the time your time on this earth is done. You will know so many more new things. But I want to thank Dane for being on here. It's been fantastic tonight, and I don't think I could have gotten a better comeback episode. We got to give the people the information they needed. We got to dish some stuff out back and forth with YouTube and Facebook, because really screw both of them. I don't really care about either of them. You guys will find this on Rumble too, which is probably where we'll end up on our home in the future. You have any final thoughts for the people tonight, Dane?
Yes. You were talking about capitalism. What I want to add on this, I go back to the true free market again. If a government is not in the way, not regulating everything, and not got their fingers in everything, interest rates are held in check. Gold and silver would be the go-to currency, which holds prices in check. And we wouldn't have runaway spending by government. We wouldn't have runaway taxation by government. We don't know any of these things because this is all we know. Other than that, what I would tell people is read your Constitution, understand it, know it. It's not a hard read. You can get through it in about 45 minutes. Read the Declaration of Independence. We have to know what our true history is in order to shape our future. Because if we don't know what our history is, we're doomed to repeat it. And also, too, is get out, be active. Get out of the stands and get on the playing field. If it means going to meet the candidates running for governor or state representative or Congress, even your local, your village council, your city council, your county commission, Get to know these people and find out what they're all about. Ask them the tough questions. Ask them the questions other people refuse to ask. And if anybody's so inclined, you feel empowered, run for a public office and do it for yourself, do it for God, but do it for liberty. Do it for the people of the United States, your family, your friends, people you don't know. God gives us two instructions on this earth through Jesus. Love God above all things and love your neighbor. And part of loving your neighbor is making liberty great again. Other than that, Ethan, I want to thank you for this time. This was great. If anybody wants any more information, go to defytyrants.com about nullification interposition when it comes to sheriff. If anybody wants to join the Defy Tyrants of Michigan Facebook group, and you can search it, find it. It may be a little bit hard to find because I've been shadow banned. I'll add you, and people are free to post, ask questions, and what have you. We're at a critical time, but we're also at a very exciting time in our country's history. There's a reason why we're all alive at this particular time, not only our country's history, but our world's history. And look at the convoy in Canada, how that's taken the world by storm, and the tyrants don't know what to do about it, other than go from soft tyranny to hard tyranny. And we're seeing Russia, I'm going to say Russia, but Canada turn into like an old Soviet Union right before our eyes. And I don't think they're done there, but the drivers up there and the people supporting the drivers need our prayers. They need our support. The American drivers going to Washington, D.C. and wherever else they're going in these convoys, they need financial support. They need supplies. Most of all, they need our prayers. They need to know that we're going to rally behind them. It's the same thing with the sheriffs, too. The sheriffs, if they know that we're rallying behind them, not only as voters, but as fellow human beings, they may be more inclined to actually hold their constitutional oath closer to their vest. And other than that, I appreciate your time, and anytime you want to have me back, just let me know.
Yeah, absolutely. It's been fantastic. Right now I'm trying to get Melissa Carone back on for an episode, and Patrick Colbeck, because it's funny. I want to bring them back on. They deleted the episodes. I want to have them back on. We'll avoid some words. I want to have them back on. I want to rub salt into as many wounds along this road as possible. And I'm not a vindictive person, but when things are done wrong to me, I tend to like people to have a little dose of reality without having to result to their levels as well. So it'll definitely be a thing where Dane will be back joining us, as well as having Melissa and Patrick back on. I'm working on having Christina Caramo back on as well. I want to get these people back in your guys' mind fresh, because they are people that are going to stand up for what we want going into our future. And I implore all of you guys to go look into them, the state representatives. If they're running for your districts, be involved at least that much. Be involved at least that much. Be knowledgeable and know who you are voting for. Don't just check that box that says all Republican. Don't check the box that says all Democrat. Make your own decisions this time around. We know the game. We know the scam. We know that it wasn't just last election cycle. But if enough people turn out, enough people speak one way, it gets really hard for them to take it from us. Because it's like I always tell you guys, when you're out there, make sure that you stay safe and you stay informed.
I go be up to doing a constitutional roundtable too, if you wanted to get a few of us on, where we can talk about people knowing what their true constitutional rights are under the Bill of Rights, under the Declaration of Independence. We are, in fact, endowed by our creators with certain unalienable rights, and among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. So If you want to do it, I'm in.
Absolutely. I was just thinking about having that. You see, one of the things that I want to do, that I'm aspiring to do in the future, is I want to get a panel of about 8 people in here. Um, Christina, Matt DePerno, people like you, Lisa from United Michigan, and get a lot of talk going, not only for the people to hear, but we want to also see how well that these people can connect on a certain level. You know, what will they do when, and forget the fact that people are watching, what will they do with each other, and how will they talk about issues, and how will we see them work on issues, because we want to be able to see that before they get into these seats. So I've been contemplating and trying to work on a format to get something like that together, um, just to see how everybody works together, see how everybody listens to each other, um, and see how our future could look if certain candidates, say you got 1 or 2 candidates that cut people off, and somebody doesn't like that they cut people off, we'll say, and then that person is able to then form a raw opinion of how a candidate acts or how an activist acts or behaves. Um, because I feel like then if you put that situation on it and you bring up different issues, people will tend to forget that they're talking in front of people. They tend to start talking amongst themselves, and you know, you get backlash a little bit sometimes. You get good conversation going, and I want people to be able to see all that. So that's actually currently in the works. Um, for, like I said, something like that, we can do different versions of it as well. I would be totally down for that. That would be fantastic. So
Also,
we will definitely be getting that in the works. And I hope you enjoy your night, Michigan. It's been fantastic to be back with you guys. So glad for Dane being here with me and him behind the scenes. We've been trying to
thank you.
get this together for. Uh, we talked about this like a month and a half
Oh, 3
ago.
weeks.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
4 weeks.
yeah, and then the band was over, and we finally got it done. And like I said, it's been great to be back with you guys, and I hope that you'll be tuning in next time we go live, and you'll be getting full notification if you follow the Facebook page. Mine's O Michigan over there, because Facebook hates me in every way, shape, or form. I love it though. They're my sweetheart. I love you, Mark. See you tomorrow.